Welcome back. Tonight, we march beyond the marble steps of Rome, not to honor emperors or senate decrees, but to trace the rise of those who wore armor, not crowns. In a world where words carried weight, they proved that steel and loyalty could speak just as loudly. Roman soldiers didn't govern from thrones. They earned their place in history through grit, discipline, and cunning. This is a story of power earned, not inherited, where influence was built from the ground up. One campaign, one oath, one sacrifice at a time. But first, if stories like this resonate with you, please consider liking the video and subscribe if you're new. And in the comments, tell me, where do you find your strength when no one's watching? Because in Rome, as in life, legacy isn't always about who commands, it's about who prevails against all odds. Now, let's begin our tale. You live in a city where wealth and power swirl like storm clouds above your head, yet true authority is always just beyond reach. You wear the mark of respect, a polished sword at your side, a legion's crest upon your shield. But no matter how many borders you defend or rebellions you crush, the Senate's marble floors remain distant. You are hailed when Rome needs you and forgotten once peace returns. This is your life as a Roman soldier, a warrior, praised in inscription, but passed over in the politics of daily life. You are vital to the empire's survival, but you dwell on its edge. Your influence felt more in the provinces than in the Palatine walls. You rise before the sun, your armor stiff and cold, the air biting through your woolen tunics. In the quiet moments before the camp stirs, you can hear the faint clink of gear and the groan of men shaking off their sleep. Soon, the sound of boots striking stone echoes through the morning, forming the steady rhythm of discipline. Your duties are not confined to battle. Rome demands more. You dig trenches, haul timber, raise outposts, and hammer stone roads across lands that once called you invader. You clear forest in Germania, guard salt routes in Hispania, and carry water to towns in Africa. Wherever the eagle standard flies, so does your labor. You belong to legions, Rome's unyielding spine, and yet your reward are measured in rations and delayed coin. The stipend is modest, enough to survive, perhaps to send a little back home. Your family surely depends on it. You calculate your future carefully. 25 years, maybe more, if the gods or generals are cruel. If you survive, you might be granted land, a quiet plot in some distant colony, far from the city whose name you bled for. Socially, your place is curious. In the provinces, villagers greet you with awe. Children follow you in the streets. Some call you protector, others call you tyrant. You are often the face of Roman order, but within the capital, you are often just another dusty pair of boots, another sword in the crowd. The senators wear robes, you wear scars, and though both claim to serve the Republic, only one dines in marble villas, while the other eats in leather tents. Among your comrades are men from every corner of the empire. The man to your right may speak in the clipped tones of northern Gaul. The one to your left may pray to Egyptian gods. Some enlisted for pay, others for citizenship, and others still for survival. Together, you form a brotherhood stitched with sweat and sorrow. You share food, guard shifts, and near-death escapes. You pass down whispered tricks, how to keep a boot from chafing, how to stay awake through long watches in the rain. Promotion is possible, but not easy. You measure your years by the face that vanish and the centurions who rise in their place. These men, with silver-plated helmets and vine staffs of authority, are both respected and feared. Some lead with honor, others with cruelty. A few listen, most command. You watch them closely, imagining your own future etched in their leather-worn eyes. The best are legends, the worst are warnings. Off the battlefield, your role does not pause. When cities erupt in protest or barbarians threaten trade routes, it is you and your unit who must act swiftly. You've stood guard in marketplaces during grain riots, stared down hostile crowds from behind a wall of shields. You've escorted tax collectors who feared for their lives, protected supply caravans winding through dangerous passes, and still, you are expected to keep your sword sharp, your posture straighter than your doubts. In the evenings, you return to the barracks. You check your gear, polish your mail, and tuck your savings into a leather pouch hidden beneath your cot. You reread letters from home, if they come at all. You speak of retirement with a mix of hope and cynicism, as if the future were a coin flipped by the gods. Some gamble on tavern dice, others bury their coin outside the camp, just in case. You have pride, but you also carry a quiet bitterness. You have seen the empire grow fat on your sacrifice. Senators debate policies you bleed to enforce. Emperors send envoys, not thanks. And if you fall in battle, your name may be scratched onto a stone, but only if someone bothers to remember. You are one of many, and yet without you, there is no Rome. You endure through heat and frost, through praise and neglect. You carry the empire forward, not for glory, but because it is what must be done. You are the hand that builds, the shield that guards, the blade that holds the line. You may not walk the Senate halls, but every stone beneath their sandals was laid by men like you. Your day begins with a horn's cry. You check your gear before eating a simple meal. Bread, porridge, sometimes olives or cheese. Then come the drills, marching in formation, practicing sword strikes, building fortifications. Sweat stings your eyes before midday. You might be stationed at the empire's edge, along the Rhine, deep in Britannia. You guard roads and cities, patrol borders, and keep watch in tall wooden towers. Your tasks change by the season, digging ditches in spring, repairing walls in summer, clearing snow from supply lines in winter. During campaigns, your world becomes chaos. You pack your gear on short notice, sleep in leather tents, eat whatever can be foraged or supplied. You fight in forests, deserts, and mountain passes. You lose friends, you bury them quickly, mark their graves with stones. In quieter moments, you write letters, clumsy but heartfelt. You mend your tunic by torchlight. Some soldiers carve wooden tokens, others gamble or tell stories. You cherish these rituals. They are often your only tether to humanity. Your discipline is enforced with severity. A missed order might earn a flogging. Cowardice in battle brings execution, but loyalty is rewarded. Good service can earn citizenship if you came from the provinces. Exceptional bravery might earn a crown of oak or an inscription in stone. When you finally earn retirement, you are granted a plot of land, usually far from Rome. You settle down, a weathered veteran among new neighbors. You tell tales of distant lands, of comrades lost and victories won. The sword hangs on your wall. The uniform is folded in a chest, but your back still straightens when you hear the horn. Your legacy is not written in marble. It is in the roads you paved, the walls you've built, and the peace you've enforced. You are not celebrated like emperors or remembered like senators, but you are the reason their name will endure. Rome expands because of your strength. Rome stands because of your sacrifice. And so, when the city honors its past, it should too honor you, because long after the emperors fall and the palaces crumble, the memory of the Roman soldier will remain in stone, in soil, in silence. For you do far more than wield a sword. You are a cog in an empire's machinery, respected, regulated, and relied upon to hold the front line and the foundation. Your journey might begin in dusty training camps, but it ends in positions of immense responsibility. You rise to command a century, serve as provincial peacekeeper, or even guard the emperor himself. Yet, with every promotion comes a test not just of strength, but of judgment, loyalty, and your ability to read the politics swirling behind the banners. Your first major appointment may come as a centurion, a respected commander of roughly 80 men. You maintain discipline, oversee daily drills, ensure your men's pay and rations are properly distributed, and manage disputes before they grow into disobedience. Your authority is both feared and valued. On the battlefield, you lead from the front. Off it, you submit detailed reports to your superiors, monitor morale, and maintain order in the ranks. Promotions are not through birth, but through grit, valor, and sometimes sheer survival. A single moment of bravery under fire could earn you a mural crown or a scar that outlasts all memory. With Rome's expansion, your postings change. You may be stationed along the Euphrates, where daily life means managing fortifications, protecting supply lines, or pacifying local populations. Diplomacy becomes as important as weaponry. You interpret the emperor's orders, broker truces, and settle land disputes with local chieftains. Your role becomes one of authority in far-flung corners of the world. Some soldiers even make temporary command of provincial cohorts, filling in for absent governors or managing emergency logistics. At such heights, your pen may become as sharp as your gladius. You also find yourself in direct service of the emperor as a member of the Praetorian Guard or an imperial courier. You carry out sensitive missions with discretion. These tasks might include escorting nobles, delivering classified commands, or standing watch in the imperial palace itself. A word from you can carry great weight or earn you quiet enemies. Your success here depends not just on your strength, but tact. You must understand when to speak, when to salute, and when to disappear. Outside of service, you may invest your pay in land or lend your savings to merchants in need of protection. Some veterans become landlords or oversee tenant farmers in newly settled colonies. Others found towns or act as local leaders, backed by their hard-won discipline and respected title. Your identity as a former soldier remains powerful, opening doors that were once locked. Veterans are awarded plots of land, citizenship if they weren't born in Rome, and the respect of their community. But this transition requires skill, hiring laborers, managing seasonal harvest, and understanding local politics. You become a figure of stability in unstable provinces. Still, loyalty is everything. No matter how high you rise, you are always a soldier of Rome. Your honors granted by the emperor's hand. You make public vows of loyalty, offer sacrifices in his name, and display his image in your home. When he speaks, you act. But in troubled times, civil war, assassinations, coups, your loyalty becomes a weapon. You must choose sides, and you are watched. Always one wrong allegiance, and the titles vanish. The land is seized. The honors become whispers of suspicion. And yet, your position between civilian life and imperial services gives you influence. You know how to speak with the commoners, how to command soldiers, and how to avoid offending a senator at dinner. You are fluent in the customs of the barracks and the rhythms of the Roman elite. Your feast might include both a farmer and a procurator. You understand Rome's moods from the grain market to the marble forum. That knowledge is your true armor. You do not inherit power. You earn it, scar by scar, order by order. Your path is dangerous, demanding, and filled with quiet compromises, but you walk with pride. In the long corridors of imperial ambition, few are trusted as deeply or feared as quietly as a soldier who knows how to lead. Success for a Roman soldier demanded far more than martial skill. Glory in battle might earn applause, but long-term influence came to those who understood Rome's deeper game, who turned valor into recognition and recognition into power. You didn't start at the top, but with each campaign, each oath, and each well-earned decoration, you etched your name deeper into the empire's memory. Your first victories may have brought you commendations, perhaps a mural crown, a golden torque, or a place in the emperor's triumphal speech. These tokens weren't just ornaments, they were keys. They opened doors to advanced training, elite units, and command tracks. But advancement required more than bravery. A soldier with ambition learned quickly how to read the political terrain as skillfully as any battlefield. As you rose in rank, perhaps to a centurion, then to primus pilus, or even to praefectus castrorum, your days became less about surviving the battlefield and more about navigating the machinery of power. You now enforced military law, led tribunals, issued rations, and administered both punishment and praise. You reviewed drills, inspected weapons, and judged disputes among your men with a fairness that could steady or shatter morale. In quiet stretches between campaigns, you oversaw engineering works that could outlast generations. Roads paved stone by stone, fortresses raised on hostile soil, aqueducts snaking across once foreign valleys. You negotiated with tribal chieftains, local magistrates, or merchant caravans. You become not just a weapon of the empire, but its voice and spine in lands that still remember their freedom. You built influence not through coin or lineage, but through consistency. The men beneath you watched how you responded when the rains made tents collapse or when a supply shipment ran late. They studied your face after the loss of a friend or a failed skirmish. Did you lead from the front? Did you share their meals? Did you bleed with them? Over time, respect settled around you like a second armor, earned, not granted. In Rome, respect had weight. Loyalty in the military was more than virtue. It was a form of capital. A centurion who held his line during an uprising or who stayed true in the chaotic days of a succession crisis could find himself on the receiving end of imperial gratitude. Entire dynasties rose or fell by the loyalty of men like you. During the year of the 4 emperors, it was the timely backing of soldiers from Egypt to Judea to the Rhine that carried the Vespasian to power. Those who chose correctly gained land, titles, even elevation into the equestrian class. But such choices were riddled with peril. One wrong allegiance, one misjudged rumor, and you might wake to find your family exiled or your name scrubbed from memory. Yet beyond politics, you sought permanence in other ways. Upon discharge, you might settle in a colonia, a military town carved into a frontier landscape. There, veterans formed the bones of new communities. You were no longer just a fighter. You were a landowner, a magistrate, a mentor. You organized defenses, mediated feuds, and helped standardize trade routes. In some towns, you introduced Roman customs, using Latin in contracts, building with arches, hosting festivals aligned with Roman holidays. Children learned Roman discipline from men like you, not from books. These colonies were more than settlements. They were seeds of the empire's identity, outposts of order planted in foreign soil. You, the seasoned veteran, were its gardener and gatekeeper. Your voice shaped its future more than any senator's decree. Influence also grew in the bonds you nurtured, a well-placed favor, covering for a junior officer during a misstep in information, or retrieving a wounded superior under fire, might ripple for years. That tribune you once pulled from the mud might become a legate, a senator, even a consul. And when he remembered your name, he remembered it with gratitude. Through such alliances, doors once shut began to creak open, an invitation to dine in a domus that once ignored you. A letter of recommendation sealed with a signet once out of reach. You traded loyalty, yes, but also mentorship, protection, and discretion. These unspoken contracts became your armor in uncertain times. They made you harder to punish, harder to ignore. In the empire's long shadow, Roman soldiers stood at its spine, not born to power, but forged by it. From muddy camps to marble forums, they carried more than words. They carried ambition, discipline, the quiet determination to rise, not just for glory, but for place. You learned to navigate a world of patrons and politics, of whispered warnings and earned trust. You rose through valor. You rose through subtle alliances, although many fell. But you endured and left a mark, not in statues, but in the memory of those who marched beside you.